All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome to June MacAdmin Monthly. We have most of the usual suspects. I guess the exciting news this month is WDC and all the announcements from WDC. I don't know if anyone has fired up the beta. Hopefully everyone has. So far, so good. I get to look at it now as sort of an interested outsider in some ways. As an end user, I saw the announcements and I loaded up Mojave and I think, wow, this is great. Go Apple. Awesome changes. MacAdmins might feel differently about that. So I'd love to hear everyone's thoughts on what Mojave brings, how it helps or hurts.
So far, the main thing we've noticed is a fairly poorly implemented dark mode.
Well, beta one, I can give them.
Yeah, you can design, I mean, there's stuff underneath, but like for at least the initial install on our machines and see what breaks from our management side, everything.
Everything except for Pam broke, but that's a non-issue.
We're filing bugs for it.
Are we filing bugs? I don't know. I'm not yet. Yeah, you're filing bugs.
Like 4 so far.
Let's see. Since people are saying the audio is a bit distorted, I'm going to try switching to camera USB. Does that make any difference?
Significantly better, but it's still a little bit choppy.
All right. I don't know if I can help the choppiness, but if that helps the distortion, then yeah, don't do that. Victor, how do you feel about any of the changes in Mojave?
So we had an issue crop up in one of the betas related to enrollments in MicroMDM. So we got help. We got that fixed before the beta when I think it was like 10.13.4. By the time 10.13 the issue went away. I got 10.14, and the same issue was there in the initial seed. So it's supposed to get fixed in the second seed, but my guess is they forgot to like cherry pick a commit from a branch and up to another branch. So that was the first initial impression. The thing I'm kind of disappointed on is that they did not ship any of the new MDM changes in the initial seed. So kind of the feedback that I got from people who attended WWDC was that we could, like, if we wanted things to get fixed, we should tell them immediately, right? And I have no way of testing the things they really care about.
MDM is still a tough one to test, and especially if they didn't ship some of those changes. So what they announced changes and documented them, but they're not implemented yet.
They're not even documented; they're just announced. And that's MDM. So they changed the install application one, which is what we use to bootstrap Macs. I'm very interested in the changes they made because they seem to be adding additional security. So they're deprecating the old command. It's still going to run, but they're introducing a new version of it that introduces cert pinning. So interested in that. Really want to test it when there's a build that supports it, and documentation. So we just saw a slide on it. Basically, I was disappointed. Kind of, they mentioned a bunch of changes related to OS updates and things like that, but they're all iOS specific, and all the feature rollouts are like classroom specific. And it's like we're talking about managing Apple devices, and the thing that they're really stressing is like, oh, there's a classroom app on the Mac, and it supports dark mode. So very, very different things.
Yeah.
Would I?
Pax, since you're sitting on the Hangout, if you feel like joining in, you have a perspective from education. If you feel like jumping in, but I suspect he's
I'm here. The audio is bad enough that I'm I'm only partially here.
Okay. Well, apparently participants are okay, so we want you to talk more. So tell us about changes from the education perspective.
For me, we're kind of behind the times, to be honest. So we're just starting to scope out what the differences are going to be with DEP, with MDM spec, stuff like that, because we're doing all that right now and sort of leaving imaging behind. So that's our focus for the summer, and where we're gonna be spending most of our time poking around. But we've barely started.
Okay. Any other thoughts on WDC announcements? Mojave, iOS.
All the location, all the user data privacy settings are really cool.
They're really rad, yeah.
Yeah.
It's going to be a nightmare for people that run backup software, though.
It broke OS query, got fixed, I think. But yeah.
Is that something that we're going to have to like auto opt in, or people are going to have to opt into?
There's a certain
So apparently, kind of related to MDM, a lot of the changes they announced was like user privacy. Like you might want to override them. So the suggestion of like, can we do it via MDM came up, same as like kernel extensions and stuff. And Apple said, yes, you might be able to, but we have not built any of those commands yet. The one thing that I found interesting is they broke the ability to query the BSSID field for like Wi-Fi through any API. So if you do IOKit at segfaults, if you do the Objective-C API, you just get a null response. But if you use the airport utility, that returns the data. But you can shell out the airport utility if you really care about it. I don't know if that's like a something that's going to be supported. There's a specific entitlement, or if they just haven't gotten around to like blocking that.
Interesting. Yeah, I guess that makes sense. I mean, that's yet another way people get fingerprinted. So, like I said to start out with, as an end user, I really enjoy the security features that they've added, sort of these little file system tripwires, and I think there's some cool stuff. So, cool. So, on that note, one of the questions I asked last month revolved around MacAdmins becoming a little bit more generalized sysadmins, because you don't really have Apple in the data center, and you have to learn so much more to be a MacAdmin than just being a MacAdmin. I think some of the trends we're seeing that go along with that I want to talk about is QueryCon. And Victor, who ran QueryCon, is here, and I'd love to hear his perspective. And we have someone who attended QueryCon, and I want to hear perspective from someone who attended it. I've only heard great things about it, but I think that's part of that trend, because even though OS Query started off kind of Mac focused, it's moved to other platforms. It's a tool for sysadmins from kind of everywhere. And QueryCon was probably, and Victor, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it was probably weighted more towards people who have come from the Mac OS community or from a Mac perspective, but it was bigger than that. So, Victor, if you want to tell us a little bit about the conference you ran, I'd love to hear it.
Yeah, sure. We got very good feedback about it. There's a blog post from Lauren Pearl at Trail of Beats, who is a speaker, and then she also has written a few blog posts about OS Query in the past. And I'll link it in chat. I really recommend everybody read it because it's their like reflection on QueryCon. We're also going to be publishing our own As far as like my reflection of it, I kind of joke at it. That was the most fun MacAdmin conference I've been at, and really it's because it was a very there was a very big combination of like security people, developers, and Mac admins all together. So normally we kind of live in our separate worlds. People who do security research, people who do threat hunting, and then people who manage Macs. And even in the same organization, like sometimes we don't interact well with each other. The OSCORE community is kind of like a mixture of people who are using this tool to achieve different things for their specific job. So it kind of brought the people together. And to me, that was very exciting. The talks kind of reflected that. We had talks from, for example, Sam Keeley from Airbnb and Frogger, Michael Lin from the community. We also had talks from people like Ben Hughes from Stripe, who's on the security team there. And then we had talks from OSCORE developers from the OSCORE team at Facebook. So it was a very interesting mix of talks. And yeah, I enjoyed it. The talks are great. And like the first year you're going to do a conference in OSCORE, you're going to get great talks because it's a long-running project. And it's the first time people are talking about it in that group. But even with that, like some of the best conversations happen like in the hallway track. So when this conference goes live again next year, like consider going. It's we're going to try to make it good like this again and learn from our mistakes from this year.
Awesome.
Yeah,
I considered going this year, but it just didn't work out for me. So I look forward to trying to make it next year because it looked really, really fantastic. So congratulations on a good first year.
Yeah, thank you.
So Jordan Wright is here, who attended, and he's one of the several people I heard good things from. So to get an attendee's perspective, I'd love to hear from that.
Sure. Are y'all able to hear me okay? I don't know if I've really tested my mic since I joined. Okay, awesome. So yeah, just to understand kind of the lens that I came from, I'm much more on the security research side than on the MacAdmin side. My MacAdmin expertise is very little because I could always lean on Papine. And so I was going to QueryCon to try to figure out what the future of OSQuery looked like, and also try to talk to the community around it. And I was super impressed. You know, big shout out to Collide for running such a great conference. I think Victor was being very humble. It went very, very well. I didn't see any mistakes that needed to be fixing. The talks were high quality, at a good pace. And the hallway track, just seeing people outside was really great because I got to meet people, you know, like Victor, who had been a fan of for a while, kind of keeping track of that work and being able to put a face to a name or a Twitter handle was great. And so what I got from the conference was that the community is not only really large, but really active, which is exciting, but also that there's a really cool future ahead of OSQuery that's being thoughtfully designed. So some of the talks, for example, from Trail of Bits were around super features. They wanted in OSQuery things like, we want some extensions to be able to write instead of just read, which at first glance you may say, oh my goodness, that's scary. You know, I don't know how much I would want to roll that out, but those kind of things are being taken into consideration, saying how can we make that a pleasant experience? It's also safe to where you can roll it out confidently, knowing, you know, I understand the restrictions and the boundaries that this feature has, where it can be useful in its context, but it's not a limitation that you have to consider if you don't want that kind of feature. So I really enjoyed kind of hearing that perspective of here's where we are, here's where we're going, and here's kind of how we're designing that path to get there. And one thing that I'm actually really excited about is at the end of the conference, we had a kind of a hack session, an afternoon, about 4 hours of hacking on whatever you wanted to. And our project was Query Hub. And it was designed to kind of answer that question like, I installed OS query. What do I do now? Like, what queries do I run? What packs do I run? And how can I share with the community if I make a query that I think is really interesting? I can go put it on Slack, but that's very ephemeral and it goes away really quickly. And so it's designed to be kind of this hub where you can share your queries, you can share your packs, you can tag them, you can comment on others. And it's kind of a community portal for people to go and share the things that they're working on. So if I'm MacAdmin, maybe I care about performance statistics, maybe I care about update frequency, security, all those queries can be already there, and I just go pick them out like I'm shopping on Amazon, right? And I just check out a little pack. And so that's going to be a project that's in progress right now. So overall, I thought it was a really great conference. I really enjoyed meeting everyone. I think the future of OS Query is looking really exciting, and there's a lot of really cool stuff to come.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for that. What were some of the other hack projects that showed up?
I know someone was working on Rust bindings that I think recently got released. Someone was working on, Victor, what were you working on? I forget. I remember you were talking about it, but
I was working on a custom logger plugin. So I'm gonna blog about that. Zach Brown from Red Canary was working on Rust bindings. He's still completing them. From Palantir wrote an interesting extension. It's on his GitHub. I don't quite understand what it does, but apparently it's really good. There was a lot of energy around the hackathon, and one really nice thing. One thing we're considering is making it like, how do we make it a full day event or possibly like a 2-day event in the future? Because there was enough both energy and expertise in that room that you could keep going, and 4 hours was great, but it wasn't enough to like actually get a finished product. So a lot of people went home and are continuing to work on those things that they started there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you have a list of the hack day or hack time entries, sort of like as an artifact of the?
Yeah, I'll start posting the ones that are coming out into the Slack channel.
Right.
I also want to say that I'm being told that by Monday, Tuesday, the videos will be out. So all of these sessions will be available to watch.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Okay. Questions about QueryCon? No? Well, awesome. Congrats again. That was it sounds like it was a really good event. And then, so you went from QueryCon effectively right to another conference at DevOps.
Yeah.
This was another one that I wish I could have made, but things happened. Timing wasn't right for me this year. That's always a good one. Did anyone here go to DevOps this year? Just G. Oh yeah, he spoke right about a vote.
Yep.
Yeah, cool. So since Victor, you're the only one in this group that attended, tell us about DevOps.
Yeah, so the videos for Mac DevOps are actually already out. Matt's always been amazing with like shipping videos out immediately. I clicked on a random YouTube link today and saw my face. Gonna click that. There were also a number of really great talks. It was nice to see kind of the same people like next week after I left San Francisco, and I was like, hey, again. There was also a lot of different faces. I met Tim Sutton for the first time, although we've interacted online in Slack for years. The talk from Chief on Upvote has been fantastic. I've sort of like read about Upvote and seen other people talk about it, but haven't seen a real demo of it. So I would really recommend you check out that session on the YVR YouTube. The thing that I learned that I was very impressed by was the local and global threshold. So the idea is like with Santa, people vote on like, oh, I want this binary to be whitelisted to be able to run it, and at a certain point, enough people vote where the group that voted is able to run it, while other people still have to approve it. So that's called like the local threshold. Like those people can run it, and then after that, it goes to the next voting cycle to get higher, so that everybody in the company at some point can whitelist it. So I really liked the way that was thought out, and Chief did a really great job of demonstrating that. There were a number of other sessions. They were really great. There were folks from Shopify who came and talked about their experience of helping their users achieve, compliance and kind of work through user-driven proactive security. So they're talking about like gamifying the experience and other things. I really liked those sessions. I liked all the sessions. They were all very entertaining, and there was a lot of very knowledgeable feedback. But like that one jumped out to me because it's something that we always consider of like, how do we ask users to do something and educate them, as opposed to like, hey, this is profile. Here's this profile. I'm just gonna force you to do things. And then you're like, oh, I have to restart my Mac. Like, why are you making me do that? And kind of closing the gap there really struck a chord with me. So, yeah, a lot of good sessions. I think my feedback to Matt is, can we make this 3 days next year? Too. But yeah.
I bet he'd be happy to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing that the Mac community in general is awash in good conferences. Like there was definitely a time where it's like there was a time where there's one at Macworld. Like that was it, and it maybe kind of satisfied your needs. And I guess WDC.
Yeah, when it was Macworld, and then they had the sysadmin track. WDC.
Right, WDC at one point, had an IT track.
Long time ago.
Long time ago.
It's history.
Well, I can tell you, it ended in 2010.
Yeah.
The last year was 2009.
Right.
2010, they didn't do it because that was the first World of Mac Tech conference. So we were like, oh, they're not doing an IT track. What an opening.
Yeah.
But now here we are, almost 10 years later, and wow, it's like you can really kind of tailor your experience, which is really nice, really nice. And Matt does a good job with Mac DevOps. Cool. So the other thing I want to bring up a little bit was there was a blog post from Workstock, and I don't remember the guy's name, but he filed Josh Pitts. He filed several CVEs against different products that all rely on Apple's code signing, kind of showing how it could be broken. So I'd love to hear more about that from someone who writes a product that was affected. In this case, Santa. Sure.
So let's see. Probably about, I guess it was mid-April, Josh reached out to us, the Santa team, to tell us that he's found something that could essentially bypass in lockdown mode code execution. So he was able to maliciously craft a binary that would trick Santa into thinking it's whitelisted by Apple, even though it's going to run his code. It's pretty clever. We've known theoretically that this was an issue, but haven't really seen it done. So it's never anything that we fixed or had the ability to fix. We didn't really know how to do it. But yeah, he gave us some samples, and once we had those, we were able to rip it apart and figure out how he did it and fix Santa, so that could happen. Not happen anymore.
So it's not actually an issue with Apple's frameworks.
No, we were holding it wrong.
Yeah, which is really interesting. But all of these, it wasn't just like, oh,
it was. And I guess in some sense it was about Apple frameworks, but
or the documentation, really, right?
You know, if everyone is doing it the wrong way, then you've probably done something wrong to have it wrong.
Yeah.
Or at least not wrong, but at least you've not guided them properly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a clever thing. So the actual issue is with universal binary. So the Mako format is executable compiled binary format that macOS uses. In 10.4, I think they announced universal binaries for the move from PowerPC to Intel.
Yep.
So it allows you to have the same code compiled to two different architectures. So you could, FAT binaries. So you could have that same binary blob on a PowerPC Mac or on an Intel Mac, and it would run just the same. So eventually, what Josh did was take advantage of having both those architectures and trick the system into executing the wrong one. So we would verify the top level binary in the FAT binary, the top level Mako that's nested inside the FAT binary. And that would be validly code signed. But then when the system goes to load and execute the binary, it picks his version. He does that through a couple clever there's like 3 or 4 different ways you can do it in manipulating the fat header and tricking the loader.
Yeah, it was a good blog post.
Mm-hmm.
Pine linked it in the Slack channel for anyone who's looking for it. It's on Okta's security blog. Yeah, I learned long ago that the fat apps do some weird things. Like if you use the Unix binary strings just by itself, if you do strings, fat binary name, you only get strings for the first architecture.
Oh, really?
But if you use strings and then you use the redirect,
you pipe it in.
You pipe it in, that will show you both binaries. So it's like they do these sort of odd things.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm almost not surprised this was a problem, but it's kind of disappointing that like Apple's frameworks don't pick up on that.
Yeah.
In some ways, because it's not. I guess it's a valid Mach-O, but not all the values are. Oh no! I think in his blog post he said you use i386. It wasn't an invalid value. It's just a value that's no longer really used.
Exactly. So you could do it a number of ways. You could have it corrupted, so it's like something that doesn't map to an actual architecture, and that would trick it. Or you could have PowerPC, which is a valid architecture, but it's not executable on these current Macs, so it wouldn't choose that.
Yeah. Well, the invalid architecture is something Apple's frameworks should pick up somewhere, or at least it feels like it. They should detect
it
that
does feel like
there. But
anyways, it's been fixed in Santa for a couple months now, and we actually updated the file info command to give you a lot more information about them. So you can point it at a fat binary, and it'll show you if it's validly signed, if it's signed at all, if one of the architectures is not signed or one is. So you can really dig apart and actually see what's happening there.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, he only released his blog post once everything got fixed, so that was nice.
Yeah, it was nice going through the disclosure process with them, because actually we worked with them probably about 6 months ago for something similar that he just announced on Twitter and left everyone hanging.
Oh, yeah.
So this time working with them was much nicer. It was 60 days. It was a lot smoother.
Nice. Well, good to hear. Glad it got all fixed up. So anyone who hasn't patched Santa or any of the other products in that list that he put out, go patch out. Sneak.
Yeah, OS Corey got patched last night as well. So.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Nice. I know Carbon Black was in that list as well. I don't know. Maybe Facebook is using Carbon Black. I forget. I don't remember, but I've heard of people using it. I can't name anyone offhand. Cool. Any questions about that? Remote people? No? All right. The usual wrap-up. Conferences. Got Xworld. You'll be there.
I'll be there.
I'll be there.
Oh, nice. Oh, yeah, you're giving a talk.
I'm giving a talk. So
I'm giving a talk.
Clay's giving a talk. Looking forward to that. Trying to remember what's after that. Oh, I think
Penn State.
I was gonna say Penn State. No, Penn State is after that.
Yeah,
But
I feel this is
There you go.
Yeah. Yes, but I think Penn State lands on top of our next scheduled meeting. Is that the case? So we will probably just cancel next month. I think July. Give everyone a break for the summer. And then I'm probably going to forget something. Maxis Admin, Jamf Nation, MacTech. I think that's it for the remainder of the year.
Yeah.
I think. So,
I'm going to open it out to Maxis Admin this year.
yes, I will be speaking there about, I forget what, but I'm speaking. And that's a nice conference. Yeah, good people, opens you up to a whole group of people.
My boss already said it's all right.
All right, everybody. Thank you very much, and I guess we will see you in 2 months in August. So thanks again. Bye-bye.
Yeah.